Hi, I'm Ron, and this is my damn show. Let's get into it.
Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown. I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously.
You were trying to get the officer who murdered George Floyd pardoned, and I just want to know what your reasoning was about that.
Well, George Floyd didn't die because of the police officer. He died largely because of a drug overdose.
I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights.
I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that does a lot of damage, but...
Oh. All right, let's get real, people. After I say a little bit here real quick, I'm going to have another video to also show you, how the response has been to this and how it should have been. That guy agrees with me and most people on the left. People watching CNN a couple of days ago when this first happened, I would have thought I was watching Newsmax or Fox News, where you expect misleading false narratives. You would have thought this guy was Mother Teresa, MLK, JFK, or just somebody, some great humanitarian. The man was a racist bigot, a horrible racist bigot, who preyed on young minds at universities to deceive and mislead them, and to have dishonest debates with them. I watched some of those debates. He's very dishonest in his whole structure, the whole way he even approached the debates. So let's not pretend this guy is some good, great humanitarian. He was a horrible, awful bigot. And it was very ironic. He just answered the question about gun laws. And we all know how he in the right feels about gun laws. Reasonable gun laws at that. Very ironic. Very ironic. But it's ridiculous. The right likes to put people like Trump wants to, or he did, lower the flags to have staff for horrible racists. That's where we are, people. That's who this president is. Lowering the flags to have staff for horrible, bigot, and racist. That's who the president of the United States is. Think about that. They don't want... You'll hear in the next video coming up how they don't want, his words played. What Charlie Kirk actually said. That's what the right does. They want to put horrible people on pedestals, like the Confederacy. They don't want to tell you what they did. They want statues and monuments to these horrible people, but they don't want to tell you what they did. That's why they try to hide as much Black American history as they can. Let's put Robert E. Lee and all these other horrible racists, people who had slaves, put them on monuments and raise statues to them. But we don't want you to know what they did. Same thing with Charlie Kirk here. Let's lower the flags to have staff and let's talk about, you need to CNN. They should be ashamed of themselves. They know how horrible of a person this guy was. Caitlin Collins about to cry. Look, I'm a very empathetic person. But this guy, like the video you've seen, he had no empathy. He thought it was a woke thing. Come on. The man was despicable. Let's be real. He needs no honor. He deserves no honor. And like I said before, I'm a very empathetic person. But when someone has shown themselves to be such a horrible racist and horrible person, it is hard for me to find empathy for someone like that. Let's get on with the rest of the video.
In yesterday's programme, not really having a very clear idea of who Charlie Kirk was or indeed what he stood for. And I ended it with a much clearer idea, which it is not quite as straightforward a process as you might think. I got a few messages yesterday complaining that we were playing out clips of what the chap actually said, the self-styled free speech champion. And then I bumped into Ian Dale yesterday evening, and he said, "Oh, you're getting a lot of flack on Twitter." And I said, "Well, what on earth have I done now?" And he said, "Oh, people think that you were wrong to play out clips of Charlie Kirk talking." I'm like, how can anybody be cross that you're playing out? I mean, what would he want in the aftermath of his appalling murder? Would he want his positions, his arguments, his messages to be more widely disseminated than ever before? Or would he want people to essentially censor him posthumously? How can it possibly be... I don't know. I gave up trying to work out what passes for the logic in the minds of these kind of people a long time ago. It's not true, is it? I'll never give up trying to work it out. But I gave up much hope that I would ever succeed. And the other bit that was missing from the analysis, from the entire story, was the definition of who they were. So Donald Trump moved immediately, as Donald Trump will always do, to turn this tragedy into whatever would be most to the benefit of Donald Trump. And so he elected to list attacks upon Republican politicians, refer to attacks upon Republican politicians, and completely ignore attacks upon Democrat politicians, many of which have been undertaken by people who were proven to be Donald Trump supporters or Donald Trump admirers, and talked about radical left rhetoric. I heard a lot of talk, I've seen a lot of talk about they. I'll play you a clip in a moment of a Fox News commentator saying they're at war with us. And I genuinely don't know who they are. And obviously there's a frisson of concern, not necessarily fear, that it just means anybody who keeps telling the truth about these people and this movement. Anybody who, for example, considers it absolutely unconscionable that you could pardon insurrectionists who attack the Capitol and left the police officers traumatized, terrified, and even dead. You know,
Make no mistake, people. Most of the political violence done in this country is done by the right. Probably a good 85%. Donald Trump pardoned all those horrible people January 6th, who he egged on. And we're in this situation because of right-wing talk, because of people like Jesse Waters, because of all those right-wing talk show hosts. That's why we're in the situation we're in. Because of them not wanting to do anything about gun violence, having reasonable gun laws. That's why we're in the situation we're in. These people hype up this stuff. And when people call it out, on the left, when people on the left call it out, somehow that's us. Making the situation worse. Somehow, when the left calls out the horrible things that the right is doing and that they're saying, call it out that Charlie Kirk is a horrible bigot. Somehow, we're supporting violence by just calling out the horrible things that they do. Calling out that Donald Trump egged on, push these people to go to the Capitol. These people would have killed the congressman if they would have got a hold of them. You know this. He pardoned them. Think about that. He pushed them to do it, then pardoned them. And now he's the president again. This is where we are. Do not be deceived by these people. Do not fall for their false narratives. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. That's all I got. Thanks for watching.